Hi, I'm Lisa Rabaska-Roby, and I'm a freelance journalist with Fast Company. And I'm joined by Chris Sharkey from Corning Inc. and Alessandra Lezama from TOOTRiS. And I'm going to jump right into the conversation about childcare. I'm going to ask each of you how childcare barriers affect our workforce daily and why this issue is so important to the business community. Chris, would you like to start?
Sure. Thank you, Lisa. And hello, everyone. Yeah, I think following the Secretary's comments there about how childcare is so important to workforce, I think what the business community recognizes, especially after the last year and a half, that it's absolutely a foundational need for workforce. The challenge in the childcare space is we talk about quality, affordable childcare, but in fact, in most places, those two don't exist together. And parents are forced to choose. If they can't afford a certain program, they'll go to a program that has lesser quality, and that creates workforce issues because those parents will make a choice, have to make that very difficult choice, whether they're going to continue working or have their child in a safe environment. On the other hand, quality programs are very expensive for most parents. So how we reconcile those, bring those two things together is really important. We also know that it is a critical factor in decision-making for potential employees. Folks aren't just making decisions based on the job content or salary. There are a lot of other factors that play into that decision. So removing as many barriers as we can for parents is going to be essential in the workforce landscape going forward.
Alexandra, can you talk a little bit about the barriers, the childcare barriers facing the workforce?
Absolutely, and delighted to be part of the conversation. I echo absolutely everything that Chris just said, and really just bringing perspective to the four pillars of economic development, right? So we need jobs and we need housing and we need transportation, but without childcare, nothing else happens because it's the sticky glue that holds all of our communities together. If working parents don't have the very comprehensive need met of having their children in a great program where they have peace of mind, they're simply not going to be productive. So I think that prior to COVID, there was already a high level of awareness from employers as to the impact of lack of childcare. Actually, employers lose more than $57 billion a year due to loss of employees, right? The lack of retention, just absenteeism, lack of productivity. But certainly navigating COVID, this percolated to very top of minds as employers. I'm an employer, but I've also been a single mom working my way up from the sales floor to the boardroom and have firsthand experienced how difficult it is to get myself to work if I don't have that peace of mind that my son was in a great place. So, the challenge is, what is it? 6 of these and half dozen of the other. It's even as an employer, when you recognize how critical child care solutions are to have that high productivity from your workforce, it's really difficult as an employer to take action. So there's so many things that are so broken about our child care system. And I'm sorry that I'm so blunt about it, but our child care system has failed our working families, our communities at large, and especially our youngest ones. We know that very early in the first 5 years, children absorb most of their information and their brain develops the most. 90% to be exact of a child's brain develops between the ages of 0 and 5. And we as a nation have not recognized how important it is to set up working parents to ensure that they have the availability that is convenient, that is affordable to place their children in these programs. So the question was, how does it affect workforce? Let me tell you how it affects workforce. It not only affects today's workforce where parents can't go back to work, and especially and disproportionately affecting women that are more prone to stay home and care for the family and not go back to work, but it devastates our ability to develop the workforce of the future, because if our children aren't exposed to these very quality programs in their very early stage in life, we're not setting them up for success, academic success. And so we're not investing in our future workforce. It's all a snowball effect. I like to reference. One thing just leads and compounds into the other. So I truly believe that if there is a silver lining to having navigated COVID and the devastation of so many working parents having to, lock down and figure out how they were going to reinvent their, their work and their lives, the one thing that has come out of this is that employers recognize that if there isn't a solid family unit and solution to their workforce, they're not going to be recovering at the pace that we need. So more and more employers are willing to raise their hand and say, I recognize that childcare is not just a family issue. It's a business issue, and how can I help? And I think that the time is now, and there's many different ways in which employers can contribute, because we can't just expect federal government to solve a problem with, subsidies. That is certainly a great component of it, but there's a lot of other underlying issues that we have to solve in order for everyone to leverage from a well-established, well thought out, visionary childcare system into the future.
So Chris, could you tell us about what your company has done? You're one of those companies that has, in fact, done some innovative things. So can you tell us what it took to create Corning Enterprises childcare portfolio? What kind of buy-in did it take? What type of investment did you have to get from the company for that to happen?
Yeah, so we've had an interesting journey on the childcare front. It actually started 40 years ago, and it started at the very top with our chief executive officer, the late Emo Houghton Jr., realizing that we would never attract women to come work in rural upstate New York without quality childcare. Since then, we've invested in 2 purpose-built centers, and then we subsidized programs to the tune of 25 to 30% of their operating costs, because we've recognized that that's the gap that Alessandra was talking about, which is that creates the program that you feel safe leaving your child there and you can bring your whole self to work. With that said, our world was rocked just like every other business on this call in March of last year when everyone went home. And we did a survey shortly after the pandemic sent us all home and said, what did working parents need? And that was a very interesting survey that came back that said, number one, working parents, women or men, need flexibility. And that is something that is going to continue as we come out of this pandemic and into the future. And flexibility means not just the ability to work at home, but be equipped at home as well. Businesses need to make the investment in technology so that people can stay fully connected there. The other thing we put in place, we're a manufacturing company. We had folks that could not work from home. And so we set up used one of our office buildings, turned it into a virtual learning support center where parents could come drop their kids off into a safe environment, safe supervised environment while they went to work and then pick them up at the end of the day. But our journey going forward is going to be like many other regions of this country. we need more infant and toddler care. There's no question about it. That is going to be a huge advantage to companies that get out ahead of this and find ways to either incent additional care or help fund training for more family daycare providers. But without an expansion of infant and toddler care, it's going to be a real challenge.
Great. So, Alessandra, a lot of companies feel like offering those types of programs, like the program that Corning is offering, is out of grasp because of the size, the red tape, the amount of effort it takes to create it. What is your response to that? What advice do you have for companies?
So I love the question. It's one of the most important questions that we can be asking the business community. If now they've recognized that family support services are very important for the workforce, what resources are we making available to them to help them provide those? And I could tell you that both my experience as a working mom, having had all the difficulty in finding the right childcare for my son and then affording that childcare, when I became a CEO and I had the opportunity to step in and provide these kind of solutions for my working parents, I found that the challenge as an employer was perhaps even bigger in that, your insurance company may not approve it, or your premiums go way up, and or your board of directors may not want to vote in support of an initiative of this magnitude due to liabilities, or simply the business doesn't have the resources at the HR level to manage and contract with different potential childcare providers to create the capacity that is necessary to place the young children of their workforce. So it's a really gotcha. And so when I founded TOOTRiS, I envisioned a solution whereby we could incorporate all of the different stakeholders, all of those providers that, whether they serve parents in a center-based program that have childcare slots of over 100, or those beautiful, super nurturing, warm, smaller programs in a childcare home, what we call a family childcare home and program, whereby they could all have a product, a platform where they could incorporate all of the program distinctions that are unique to them and make those readily available in real time to parents that are looking to place those children, and in turn providing this platform to employers. So as opposed to them having to think about on-site childcare programs, which is a huge burden on many employers, but even those, that small 7% of employers, of which 15% are in the top 100 corporations across the nation that do provide some sort of on-site childcare program for the workforce, they've got deep pockets, and perhaps they own their own real estate, and so they can do that. But even then, the capacity planning of those slots, and especially going back to what Chris said, whether it's an infant or a toddler or a pre-K age child, right? They don't always have enough capacity for the demand of the workforce. So going back to the type of solution that employers can access today is a technology platform that allows them to tap into hundreds of thousands of different programs that have availability as of when their workforce needs it. And here's the catch. Parents need childcare 24/7, not just daycare 6 to 6, because depending on the type of job that they have and the type of schedule, they may be a nurse, a doctor, in manufacturing, they're going to have all sorts of different types of scheduling. So a unified platform that helps employers incorporate childcare as a benefit without the burden of having to administer the programs and or be part of the day-to-day discipline of childcare, which is a very specialized profession. As we know, we're caring for the most, valuable little people in the world, right? Our workforce children. So I'll leave it at that.
Chris, any final thoughts about what employers could be doing or should be doing? We
Yeah,
have
I
just a
think,
few seconds.
yep. And I think Alessandra is exactly right. Going to a center, developing your own center is a big thing to bite off. There are lots of other options that are out there, including connecting employees and family daycare providers. And just remember, employees will always choose the health and well-being of their children over working for you. So get out in front of it.
Great. That was a great way to end it. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.